Hello again, and today I'm gonna quickly go over 5 things that will make your tank animation look better. For this video, I have built a very short tank animation to go over some principles that I will explain here, and that in general will help you to better understand how tanks as a whole function and how a rig that you build should function if you wanna animate it to a decent level. First of all, a tank isn't a race car. Tanks need time to get up to speed. Also need time to stop. A, a tank isn't a race car and it can't accelerate in 3 seconds to its full speed. Also, a tank isn't fast. Most World War II tanks won't make more than 30 kilometers per hour off-road. You have the outliers in the cruiser tanks and the light tanks who are faster, but in general, like medium tanks and heavy tanks are not really faster off-road than 30 kilometers an hour. So don't overclock your speed. Second of all, inside the tank are humans, meaning humans have reaction times. Tanks don't shoot instantly after they acquire a target. They need a second to really line up the shot and shoot. While it may look cool to, especially in World War II tanks, have like fast follow up shots and like really quick succession of firing, that brings me immediately into the third point. Guns need to be reloaded, and most reload times, especially on bigger cannons, are in the 7 to 10-second range. Like for example, this Panther 3 here with its 5 centimeter gun has a reload rate of about like 5 to 7 seconds, depending on the crew, the placement of the ammo inside the the tank, and so on. So it's really not as straightforward as just like shoot, wait, and then shoot again, right? Like you can see how much time is in between shots here. And I feel like even this is still a tad bit short. I could have probably given it a bit more time for the actual reload process to have happened, because what you also need to see is the gunner needs to reapproach the target. If he destroys one target and he has to lay his gun onto another target, he still needs to range find, he still needs to figure out the correct lead, and so on. That takes time. Tank combat usually isn't as fast as you see it in the movies, especially when you hold your shots. Tank combat is really slow, especially like in older tanks. Which brings me on to the fourth point: turret traverse. Turrets, especially early turrets and turrets of bigger tanks, are not fast. Let's take for example like turrets on early tanks. The Panther 3 here is an exception, but most early tanks had hand cranked turrets, meaning somebody sat in the turret and hand cranked the whole turret, which leads to pretty slow traverse rates. The Panther 3 only can achieve a pretty high traverse rate due to its electrical traverse in the turret, which is a pretty new a pretty new thing for that time frame. I feel like, especially like even the first Panther variant had still a hand crank turret and didn't use electrical drives for the whole turret, which then also which got then introduced later in one of the follow-up variants. And the fifth and final point is your your commander can't see everything. Your commander isn't all-knowing. You have these vision ports, and that's what your tank commander can see. Your tank commander will not react instantly, and he will need to give the crew orders. Meaning, if he sees a target here, for example, he spots it here, he gives the gunner the call out lay on target. So the gunner rotates his gun. At the same time, he still needs to tell the driver to stop, because firing when moving doesn't work in World War II in most World War II tanks. Then the guy needs to still find his target. The commander needs to give the order to shoot. He then has to tell the tank driver turn and then to shoot again and then forward again, right? So all of these things are things that the commander has actually to be able to tell the people in the tank, because it's a crew. It's not like in War Thunder or other tank games where the tank is controlled by one person. Usually there are 4 to 5 people in this tank, which all need to communicate with each other, which all have tasks to fulfill. And taking this into account, yes, guns, this kind of like a sixth secret thing, you might say, yes, guns have recoil, and especially tank guns recoil into the tank. It's not just a muzzle flash coming out of the end, which you might see in some older World War II movies where the where the smoke comes out of the barrel. It's guns have recoil, and it's not even like a little bit of it, it's a lot of recoil. If you look at, for example, the 7.5 KWK cannon from like the Panther 4 or Panther, and you just look at it firing like in a stationary position, like in an anti-tank mount, this gun recoils a lot to the back. And this needs to be shown with the barrel itself, because obviously the barrel will move, and this is something you should keep in mind when animating. So yes, I think I've went over the most important things. I will probably will make another video on this rig itself, because it's a very interesting topic as well for me, because I learned a lot during this. But for now, you have to live with these 5 tips and tricks for animating tanks. Um, Thank you for watching and have a good time.